Welcome, everyone. My name is Liz Banuelos Castro. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Internship and Diversity Programs Advisor here at the USC Career Center. Today, in the next hour, we will be having the STEM Fields Industry Panel with 4 amazing employers here, with 2 from Edwards Life Sciences. And to get us started, can I have each of you introduce yourselves and your organization? And Sharon, if you want to start us off.
Sure. Hi, I'm Shireen Laura Salemnia. I'm the founder of Playworks, which is an interactive gaming and company for kids. We're focused on STEM with our first project for our game, and also Whiz Girls Academy, where we do healthy, balanced tech lifestyle hackathons with kids.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Sure, thank you. So I am Marcia Figueroa. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Manager at Natural Resources Defense Council, and we're an environmental advocacy group that uses law and science to push forward laws and policies that'll protect the environment.
Thank you, Marcia. Cassie, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie Nufabla. I graduated from USC Marshall in 2016. I'm excited to be here today. I'm currently a finance manager at a company called OpenX in Pasadena. And OpenX is an ad tech company. We're an ad exchange that is one of the largest ad exchanges in the industry, and we focus on data and identity. And we essentially build products that help buyers and brands and online publishers monetize on their digital marketing efforts. Thanks, that's it.
And Basek and Wesley, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bashak. I'm also here with Wesley, and we're here from Edwards Life Sciences. I graduated from USC in 2020, and now I'm working at Edwards, where we focus on cardiovascular disease, and we're a medical device company.
Oh, Wesley, you're muted. Wesley, you're muted still?
Got it. Thanks. Hi, my name is Wesley Matingu. I did a dual degree engineering program between Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and RPI in upstate New York. And I graduated with 2 bachelors, one in applied physics from Morehouse and one in biomedical engineering from RPI. After undergrad, I was recruited to Edwards Life Sciences through their clinical and regulatory development program. It's a 2-year rotational program where, along with Bashak, we've been rotating through 3 different business units and 3 different functional areas. And currently I'm in their legal department doing some patent work and intellectual property reviews.
Thank you so much. It's good to see some alums here too. And with that, we do want to learn more about the industry, right? So what are some of the challenges and benefits to working in your industry? Cassie, if you want to get us started.
Yeah, so not sure if you are too familiar with ad tech. So ad tech is a growing industry, and it's advertising technology, and it really propels the revenue and function of the internet. And it's extremely complex, but as the internet grows, ad tech is a main partner and a big piece of it. And not a lot of people love ads. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge of it. Most people try to close out of it right away. So that's a main challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity for a lot of brands and websites, and that's essentially where they get their revenue. So I think one of the biggest benefit of working in ads and just kind of seeing how the internet essentially makes their money is that there's always something new to learn with evolving technologies. As there's new platforms and new apps, students and kids are getting more exposed to, there's always new opportunities to advertise. There's always new platforms such as AI, VR, AR, where we can learn to kind of plug in and help advertisers and brands with their different marketing campaigns. And on top of that, there are always new challenges where we can really push ourselves to learn to work with and work around, for example, privacy laws and data privacy issues that a lot of people want to have to protect themselves with advertising. So they kind of go hand in hand. I think it's always a dance to see how we can best help advertisers monetize the most while also making sure we're ethical in our practices. So I think that's definitely something that we are focusing on each day as we help with our business platform and also just kind of with mechanics behind tech as well.
Thank you, Cassie. Sharon, do you want to share?
Sure, yeah. So the challenges of being an entrepreneur, obviously, those are always there. But I wanted to be like Tom Hanks in the movie Big. So I used to work at Mattel and research on Barbie and then Bratz. And I found that talking about STEM in 2005 was way ahead of my time. And obviously now it's a really big deal. So there's a couple of challenges, obviously, being an entrepreneur, creating something from scratch. There's a couple of things, but it's so rewarding. And now with Whiz Girls Academy, where we use the games to teach how to code and do all the different things with kids, it's really fun and exciting to make a difference in their lives. So being in different industries, technically we're in the ed tech industry, which is educational technology. We're in the gaming industry. We're also doing social impact in real time. And actually, I used to teach that at USC. I was teaching at Viterbi Tech for Social Impact. So before the pandemic. So yeah, it's really exciting and fun, but there's always challenges, but it's always keeping us going.
Thank you, Sharon. It's always good to hear more from Playworks and Whiz Girls making such an impact. Marsha, do you want to share about the challenges and benefits to your industry?
Sure. I think some of the challenges are getting folks who want to work for a nonprofit. I think oftentimes people go for the larger tech firms and so that means that we have to stay reputable and also show that we can compete. I think the biggest benefit of working at an organization like Natural Resources Defense Council is that there's never a moment where you're not giving back. We are an international organization, and everything that we do, whether it be with science, business, technology, or in data, like we are working for the earth, for you, our loved ones, and for our future. And so sometimes it's hard getting in front of the larger corporations who are prettier and shinier, but there's a lot of room for advancement in our organization, and it's just about getting in front of students to get them to see that.
Thank you for sharing, Marsha. And Bashak and Wesley, either of you want to take the question?
So I would say something, or one of the key challenges for being like within the med tech space is that like there's an additional level of scrutiny to everything that you do, because ultimately like you want to develop life-saving technology that's dependable, safe, and effective. But if you're not able to prove that to the governing bodies like the FDA or BfArM in Germany, then they should not legally or ethically give you the right to sell your product on the market, because you could be doing huge harm and disservice to the general population. And so while I look at it almost like it's a two-sided coin, because it does make it very challenging, and it does add an additional level of rigor to all of the work and the verification that we do to test and design our devices. But it's also what I would say is the biggest motivator and the biggest common element that brings everybody to the table, is that we all want to do something that makes a better world for people. And so it's kind of a very good unifying factor that keeps everybody very focused and devoted to developing cutting edge technology.
Thank you all for being so candid and sharing the challenges, but also the benefits that come with working in your industry. And with that, what advice would you offer to students interested in a career in your industry? Marsha, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can't say enough about networking, right? And using social media platforms and being very proactive about reaching out to people. I find that sometimes students are apprehensive about doing so because they either don't hear back or they get a rejection email. And if you don't hear back from someone, I can promise you it's because they're busy. If they say no, I can promise you it's because they're busy. But the goal is to keep reaching out, because there is someone who's been in your position before, and especially in the nonprofit world, right? Like our biggest thing is the way we thrive is about creating diversity pipelines and making sure that we reach out to folks in the advanced career world and those who are just starting, right? That is part of our mission. So yeah, I guess in a roundabout way, I hope I answered your question.
You did, Marshall. Thank you so much. Bashak, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, sure. So I think that the biggest advice I would give is to be open to change and willing to learn, especially in the medical device industry. There is always a lot of complex aspects to it. My experience predominantly working in the MDR field, which are the European regulations surrounding medical devices, there was always just new change coming along and new requirements, and I had to be adaptable and flexible, but also being able to learn from others and not being afraid to ask questions when needed.
Thank you. Yeah, I think being adaptable can be said for a lot of industries, right? Being open to change. Sharon, did you want to take it next?
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to add to Marcia because I really believe in networking. I'm a personal component of that. I think it's really important. That's how I got my job at Mattel. I basically called my boss for an informational interview and I bugged him for 9 months until he finally created a position for me. So I think it's really important to network. And at the time, we barely had Google. So I was just connecting the dots, going to the library and now I'm aging myself. But that's how it was. Now you have Twitter, you have Google, you have so many things and so many ways to get a hold of people. And LinkedIn obviously is great because if you find somebody that you want to work for, you just reach out to them on LinkedIn or find their address, send a card, ask them for an informational interview. I think it's so important to show that you're persistent and you really want, to be driven to make something happen. And, people want that. Obviously, like I said, I had that experience because it took 9 months. And the first day when I walked in, I asked for a job, but he was like, oh, there's no opportunities right now, but I still kept in touch. And I went to the toy fair on my own. I did all the research. I read all the books. I kept him updated and it finally worked. So you don't know how long it's going to take, but you have to really, if you're really passionate, and if you really truly want something, you can make it happen.
That's great advice, Sharon. Thank you. And Cassie?
I was going to say something similar about passion and making sure that passion and interest is expressed, especially in ad tech. I think we really look for candidates that kind of have a genuine interest in technology. If I work in finance and operations, it's the back end of ad tech as an industry, but I think it's really important to still have that real intellectual curiosity, and you are interested in keeping up with technology trends and devices because it's going to be in your vocabulary every day. And if it's not something that you're passionate or at least comfortable diving into, I think it can really show, and it'll really affect how you kind of get along with your day-to-day work. So I think genuine interest in tech or genuine interest in the industry that you're going to work for. Make sure you're doing a lot of research before you go into your interviews. We might come up to that a little bit later. Just being engaged with kind of current events in your industry and the world around you. Being very curious to making sure that you're always asking questions and always willing to learn. And one more thing, we already talked about adaptability, but especially in ad tech, there are new apps and new technologies and new platforms that are being used every day. So just kind of being adaptable to maybe not using a language or an engineering skill that you worked for over a year, which can be frustrating at times. But I think being adaptable is a really, really useful skill. So yeah, just to reiterate.
Thank you. I think you all put it really well. Your adaptability, your passion, it definitely shows as you're applying to these internships and these jobs and using your network, building your network, right? And with that, we'll shift to now learning more about your internships. What qualities do you seek in ideal interns? And what can someone do to stand out for the right reasons on their application? Wesley, do you want to take this first?
So I think that one of the key things that differentiates a star candidate from the general applicant pool is somebody who fits perfectly within the responsibilities and the expectations of what the internship is asking for. So what I always recommend people do is go back to the application, read it, reread it word for word, and then restructure your application and your resume so that you are the perfect piece that fits exactly the need of this internship role. And also checking out websites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn and looking at people who hold the position that you are interested in or who have done similar position and kind of learning from them about, okay, what are key skills and competencies that somebody who does this job would be expected to be able to perform, and then how do I make it so that my resume is a reflection of that. Like the answers are out there. It's just on you to do the work and kind of align your personal skills, gifts, and talents with the need of the position.
That's great advice, Wesley. We always tell our students to tailor your resume, tailor your cover letter, and demonstrate these skills that they're looking for. Cassie, do you want to take the question?
Yeah, I think tailoring a resume is a really strong, it's a strong benefit for sure. We have our online systems that will track and make sure that the words at least match and there's some skills that completely align with the hard skills. And kind of moving past the resume submission, I think in the interview process, when you really get to know someone, we pay a lot of attention to the kind of questions that you ask us to see if you're, again, not to repeat myself, if you're genuinely interested in the industry or if it's something that is a good match for you as well. We want to make sure that you're not afraid to ask questions and also very outspoken. I think especially because our internship is virtual, it's hard to kind of tell when interns need help. So during our interview process, we check to make sure that you're comfortable speaking up with us and can kind of communicate your needs too. So I think just being really clear and concise and being able to voice what you are looking for in your internship as well.
Mm-hmm. It's great advice, Cassie. Always remember that they're not just interviewing you, you are also interviewing them to see if they're the right fit for you. Marcia, did you want to take it next?
Sure. I think some of what I'll say is repeating what Wesley and Cassie said, but again, I can't say it enough. Show related experiences and interests, right? I do not underestimate the job description. As a former recruiter from my organization, there's a lot of thought that goes into the job description. And even though it's for an internship, we put a lot of thought into the qualifications and what we're looking for, like we would any full-time position. So don't make up your experience or your qualifications or your interest, because it will show in your interview, but make sure that it's relatable, so that will require for you to have multiple resumes, right? You cannot use the same resume for every job, right? For every interest, there's a different resume and there may be a different cover letter. So I would urge you to put time into making sure that you show related interests and that you can be proactive, right? Especially for us as a nonprofit, we're not looking for sophomores and juniors to have, years and years of experience. So we understand that some of that may be limited, but you need to show your interests in other ways, and that can show up in your coursework, in your volunteer. List that on your resume if it makes sense for the position. That's how you stand out from someone else who has very little experience or interest in a position.
Thank you, Marcia. And Sharon, bring us home.
Sure, yeah, I think it's really important being in a startup to be really flexible but open to learning, because there's so many things to change all the time. But also, like, let's say you signed up to be an intern for this thing, but then one day I need you to help me teach at Whiz Girls Academy or whatever that is. Like, there's so many things that change all the time. So I think it's really important to be flexible and open to learning, but also like showing that you're super passionate about, the industry and all the things that we do is super important as well.
Thank you, Sharon. And I know that you spoke about networking earlier, Sharon. And in our next question, we're actually going to dive deeper into that. So networking is a huge part of the internship search, as a few of you have touched on already. Do you have any tips or advice for our students? Sharon, since you spoke about it earlier, if you want to start us off.
Sure, yeah, I think it's important. I mean, obviously you can send your resume to open opportunities and what have you, but I think it's important to reach out to people because you never know what opportunities they have. And like I said, the way I got my job at Mattel was through an informational interview. And I think it's important to go see what you like to do and network your way into that. And now there's like meetups and events and like hackathons and so many events that you can go to meet so many different people, and you never know who you're going to meet where and what that connection is down the line. And if you keep in touch, there's always something there. So, and like literally every night, and just at USC, there's a ton of events, but I'm sure if you get out and look up Meetup or different events online for like startups or whatever your interest is, I'm sure you'll find a ton.
Can I jump in, Elizabeth?
Mhm.
I really want to say, whenever I do these events, I always think about myself in college and how I did not use the career services office. And I think that that is a huge resource that I would also, in addition to, it's a different form of networking that I would advocate for any student to continue to use, in addition to what everyone on the panel has mentioned, social media, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. You want to stay informed, and all of those platforms will inform you about who's who and what's important to each organization. But your career services will also roll all of that in a binder or in a book, or on a link or a tab on their website. So I didn't use it enough when I was in college, and that's who I'm in contact with in my role right now. They are the ones that put all the information in front of me, and I think they do the same for students.
They do. Thank you so much, Marcia, for also plugging our Career Center, because in addition to everything that, Sharon and Marcia has mentioned, we also have Trojan Talks, we have events. You can network with alumni here at USC. You don't have to go to LinkedIn immediately when you have resources here. So thank you, Marcia, our unofficial Career Center ambassador. And Cassie, do you want to take it next? Also former alum or a current alum.
Yes, current alum. I use the Career Center as well at USC. And as on the recruiting side too, I think we had 2 interns in the last 2 years that we got through the recruiting center. So thank you so much for that. We also use LinkedIn, but I think we're a smaller company, so a lot of our recruiting efforts are self-sourced. We don't have a huge HR team. So I think one thing that has helped us find kind of those golden interns are a lot of personal referrals and connections that we had outside of our automated resume system. So the interns that we've hired, they applied through our website, but then they also sent me a message on LinkedIn, or they also had a mutual connection that they used to kind of break the ice. So they were like, oh, you were also at this club at USC, I did this. And that kind of helped me at least see who, I just remember their names a little bit more. So I think if you, whatever kind of personal ad you can place in messages, those are always really helpful, because I mean, at least for a small company, we're just people just reading things. So anything is helpful. So I think just really don't be afraid to kind of add more of a personal touch to it, so we could really kind of see who you are through the statistics and the keywords. And don't be afraid to cold call or cold message too. I think as students, you are in this great window where you could ask anyone anything, a CEO or a small manager like me, and we'll answer. We love hearing from students, hearing what you're learning in class too. So I think definitely take advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you, Cassie. And Wesley or Basha, does either of you want to take a question?
Yeah, so the USC Career Center, as a USC alum, I would say is great, because that's how I got my internship at Edwards initially. And I think that in terms of networking, a huge thing I notice when I do talk to students, when I do come back for recruiting, is that sometimes there's a tendency to recite your entire resume when trying to connect with a person. And although that's impressive, I would say that really being able to speak about your passion and why you want to be in the field that you want to be in speaks volumes compared to people who are just, reciting what they've written in their resume or CV. So I would just say, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and really talk about your interests, and just develop a genuine connection instead of a recited robotic breakdown of your experience.
That's really great advice, Bashak. Always remember to still be genuine and authentic when you are networking with people. And before we move on to our next few questions, to our students in the audience, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A and we can read them for you at the end of the session. Now, in learning more about the internships, can you all tell us about what kind of projects you have your interns work on? Cassie, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, so a lot of our day-to-day projects are in Excel. We're on the finance side, so we need a lot of kind of hard skills that can work with big data. There's a lot of data visualization and building reports based on different financial data points, KPIs. So that's kind of half of the internship, and our other project is individual to the intern. So typically we'll throw you into our industry for the first couple of weeks, and then you can kind of decide what project you want to work on. You can pick your special topic within the industry and what has intrigued you over the last couple of weeks of learning about what OpenX is. And it can be tailored to your specific skill set. Essentially, it'll be centered around kind of big data visualization. And at the end, there's a big presentation that we'll have you do in front of leaders of the company. So we think it's kind of a good program that can give you a sense of the kind of day-to-day detail work that we do, but also the kind of presentation aspect of it at the end.
Thank you, Cassie. Marsha, do you want to take it next?
Sure. So for us, I would say it varies, right? It's highly technical and some more pertaining to like liberal arts. So I've had folks come in and work with our data team and our science center, and they worked on blogs. They've done research. They've assisted with writing articles or editing articles. We've even had interns and fellows come in and just help to manage our science center partnerships with programs in the community. For us, we have about 60 internships in the summer. So it varies. It depends on the student interest and the interest of the specific program / department, and that would be discussed during the hiring process. We even have internships where we ask the student what it is that they want to walk away with at the end of their internship. So we have internships where students can decide what is it they want to learn, or it's already a designated outcome of a specific project.
Thank you, Marsha, for giving us a great overview. Wesley or Bashak?
So at Edwards, a lot of our internship projects are driven by the company need, where in our different business units or different functional groups, if there's a project that a manager has proposed or submitted to university relations that they would like to have more help with, university relations will review a candidate's application and resume and be able to match them based on like their skill level and kind of like aptitude for the type of responsibilities that they would be given on that project. Additionally, since Edwards is a very is in a very cross-functional space within the medical device industry, like a lot of the internship opportunities can range from anywhere to like hard engineering with quality teams doing testing or design verification or validation of devices, all the way to clinical support, actually going to cases, following up with patients, and doing a lot of things that help out with the physicians within like the within the hospital setting. So depending on what your skills are and kind of what the need of the company is, you can find yourself in a variety of different spaces within like the medical device arena.
Thank you, Wesley. And Shirani?
Yeah, so our internships vary as well, but mostly it's anywhere from creating a game from scratch, being a designer, being a coder, and then, like I said, on the Whiz Girls Academy side, it's helping to teach the kids and being a mentor. And there's one thing that you'll never get, like most corporations will be like, you know, can you get coffee or pick up errands and that kind of stuff. It's really more about getting your feet wet and figuring out what you like to do, what part of it you want to be a part of. There's like marketing, there's social media, there's so many different elements. It all kind of is under the umbrella of like project management, but like I said, it depends on what your interests are, and we try to match you with what we have currently available.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different internships for you all to explore. It just depends on what you're interested in. Pursue your passions, right? They'll see that in your applications. Now, we also know that a mix of hard and soft skills are needed in every industry. What are the hard and soft skills that students should work on to thrive in your industry? And Bashak or Wesley, if you want to take this first.
Yeah, so in terms of the hard skills, I'd say it really depends on whether you're on the engineering side or if you're on the regulatory or clinical side. So that's going to vary based on which internship you're specifically applying to within the company. But for the soft skills, I think, ability to learn, being adaptable, flexible, and being willing to welcome change, and also being able to network and work with others and be a really good team player is important. Presentation skills, and also just being able to be quick on your feet, and just networking overall, I would say, is probably one of the biggest soft skills we look for.
Thank you, Bashak. Cassie, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, so on the finance side, mainly Excel, need to be able to work with kind of large data sets, work with data visualization. We also have interns using SQL. It's not a requirement, but kind of just a general understanding of how to use those kind of systems is really helpful. And kind of also working with VBA. We had some interns working on different projects that they used where they use programs in different classes, and they brought it in, which is really cool. And also on the soft skill side, outspoken, willing to ask questions, kind of jumping for different one-on-ones with different people without kind of taking the initiative to kind of meet people within the company, and just kind of being able to translate all the tech skills that you do on your computer to other business partners that might not have that kind of insight. So just really clear and concise communication.
Thank you, Cassie. Definitely be adaptable and open to learning new skills in addition to everything they're telling you here today, right? Sharon, did you want to go next?
Sure, yeah, I think the open and being flexible is super important. Like I said, at a startup, things change all the time and projects change, but it's really always looking for people that are leaders too, and they really want to take the initiative as well. I think that's important.
Definitely. Thank you, Sharon. And Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, being proactive, project management, because a lot of our positions are virtual, right? So you're not going to be able to always physically meet your team. Some of our teams are currently hybrid, but being proactive, project management, strong writing skills, the ability to do research, of course, all types of software knowledge is welcomed, and being willing to be flexible and learn our software knowledge. I'd probably say all the above of what everyone else has said.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you everyone for sharing all those skills. Now, we do have some questions from the audience. The first one being, if we send out resumes and we network and we don't get a response, should we send follow-up emails or a follow-up email? Whoever wants to jump in and take that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to
I'll volunteer first. So I've had experiences where I've been very eager to take on a role or trying to get a position at a company, and I had sent an email or sent a resume at an initial meeting, and I was waiting on the recruiter to get back to me. Sometimes if there's like a current event that's going on within like that specific sphere, so like there was like a breakthrough in the scientific community and some research that kind of paralleled to the lab that I was trying to get myself involved with, I just kind of sent a note just saying like, hey, I was thinking about your lab, still interested in doing research here. I found this article while I was just doing research. I thought it would be interesting, so I wanted to send it your way. Please reach out to me when you get a chance. And then I got a follow up. Basically, they just told me that they were very busy, or that they didn't have capacity at that time, but that they appreciated that I was still interested in them. So sometimes it won't work out the way you want it to, but that's a kind of nice way for you to show that you're still interested without kind of seeming pestering. So yeah.
Thank you, Wesley. Definitely engage with recruiters or managers if you have the opportunity to do so. And Sharon, I know you had something to add as well.
Sure, yeah, I think it's important to always follow up. And, like I said, it took me 9 months to get a job finally, so you never know the timing, but I think it's just showing that you're persistent and you're really interested in the position makes a huge difference.
Thank you, Sharon. And Marsha, I saw you unmute as well.
Yeah, I did, but I think everyone said what I had intended to say. I think following up is key, just because you don't know what's going on in that individual's work life world, right? And it could be that moment or that day they weren't able to respond. But if you reach out in a week or a few days, not every day, I would not recommend that. That day may be a different day, or as someone else mentioned, something may have come onto the table that wasn't there before. There may be an opportunity that's available. So I highly recommend following up. I do not recommend doing it more than 2 times, maybe 3 at the max. Probably using different platforms may not make it seem as if you're pestering the individual too much. But yeah, following up is key, and being consistent. And when you write your message, be thoughtful and make sure that you do your research. Get people's names right. Make sure you write the names of departments and programs or the organization. Spell check is key. If you're referencing some work that they've done or an article or something, make sure that it's related to that person, and that everything is correct in the body of your email.
Thank you, Marsha, and thank you, everyone. All great advice. Definitely, it's okay to follow up, but don't, spam someone with a lot of emails or a lot of messages. And we do have another audience question. One of our students asked, how do you show and not tell the soft skills in your resume and in your interview rounds? To whoever would like to answer first.
Go first. I think it's definitely hard to show soft skills on your resume. I don't know if this is advised in the USC Career Center, but we think it's really cool when at the bottom they'll post interests, and we could just see that you have hobbies, and maybe that's something that we could relate to, anything that kind of sheds light on you as a person outside the office. I think those are always really cool. Or if in your cover letter too, if you're concise and kind of not to, or yeah, just try to throw a personal touch in the cover letters too. That's really helpful. And then in your interviews, I think soft skills are a lot easier to pick up on, at least from the interviewer side. And from your side, I think it's more helpful, again, to just be a little bit more concise. Maybe I also tend to ramble, so maybe this is a bad example, but I think if you're just very clear with your intention and ask questions that you're genuinely interested in, it's easy to see kind of what skill sets you'll be able to show throughout the internship through that.
Thank you, Cassie. And yeah, we say it's okay to have your interests on there. Sometimes you can connect with a recruiter, an employer in that way too. Did anyone else have something to add for the question about showing your soft skills and not telling? If not, we can, oh, go ahead, Wesley.
Yeah, just really quickly, I wanted to say that a lot of experienced recruiters will be able to pick up on some of your soft skills based on the amount of time and about an effort and accomplishment that you have like in certain areas that you write in on your resume. So like, for example, if you show that you are working with a community service organization for several years, you've gained or taken on like positions of leadership there, and you guys have actually been recognized by maybe like your state or your community for the amount of effort that you've done. Like a recruiter would be able to see that and be like, wow, this person is very committed, has a big passion for this community service organization that they're a part of, and has like the networking and like just kind of the acuity to be able to rise the ranks and to be able to be seen as a leader within that specific space. So if you can kind of tell a story about yourself through sequential things that tie together well within your resume, it makes it easier for the recruiter to pick up on soft skills. And in the interview, just like make good eye contact, speak slowly, clearly, and concisely, and just with an air of confidence that you are the right person for this job.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Wesley. And with that, we'll move on to our next question. Now, you've all touched on networking a little bit, but to be a little more specific, can you share any professional associations that you'd recommend to college students to either join or get in contact with or get involved in to start a network with people?
I think it really depends on the industry. Like I said, there was like the toy fair I went to in New York, and then there was like the women in toys and women, like there's so many different groups. And when I switched to gaming, there's like women in gaming, there's IGDA. It just really depends on what industry you want to focus on, because there's so many different groups that you could be a part of.
Thank you, Sharon. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, depends on your industry. And if you don't know where to start, again, I think the Career Center has text that can help you with that. I think the clubs and organizations at your university can help you with that. And I know definitely LinkedIn can help you with that. And all of that is like, you know, a click of a button is just signing up, participating maybe in online virtual events. But every industry has hundreds of events in different ways to be active through an association that, and it probably won't even cost you any money. You know, I also recommend, depending on your city, meetups, right? Like that's a good way to start with networking and finding people who are already in the industry who may have some insight about an association that you just have not heard of. Because there are large ones that are online, and there are small ones as well.
Thank you, Marcia. And yes, we can also help you find some professional associations through connecting majors to careers, or we may know of some, or we can connect you to alumni who know of some more as well. And moving to our next audience question, how much does leadership and involvement weigh in a resume, and how can we increase our experience in leadership?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I think it's important to, like, if you don't see an industry that you find like a group for, start one. That's being a leader, right? Like there's so many things you could do to be a leader and show that you have. Like when I was in high school or junior high school, actually, there was no girls basketball team in my local rec center. So I started one. There was a boys one, and I was like, well, I don't want to play with boys in junior high. Like, so I started one, right? So it depends on what you want to do and see what's out there. And that's showing your leadership skills.
Thank you, Sharon. There are definitely a lot of ways you can do it. Thank you for sharing your story too, Sharon. Does anyone else want to take the question? About how much leadership weighs on your resume?
I mean, it never
Really
hurts,
briefly.
right?
Oh, no, Marcia, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just very quickly, it never hurts, and very similar to what Sharon said. If you partake in an organization or any on campus or off campus, whether it be extracurricular, like Wesley mentioned earlier, if you're volunteering and you hold any sort of leadership role, secretary, vice president, leader of marketing, treasurer, that in itself shows that you took the initiative to not just only partake in a club or an association, but that you stepped up and you decided to take on extra work and become a leader in whatever it is that you're taking part of. So it doesn't have to be the president of the organization or association, but I think, you know, any sort of role other than being a member shows leadership and initiative.
Thank you, Marsha, and thank you, everyone. Now, before we bring this webinar to a close, I want to ask all of you, what is your final piece of advice that you want to make sure the students take away from either your industry or the internships? Cassie, go ahead.
Yeah, I can first. Just be open to anything. I had no idea what ad tech was until 2019 when my old boss was, I'm going to this new company. Do you want to check it out? I had no idea what it was. And I think if you just really keep an open mind and are willing to learn and really give different companies, no matter what size they are, a chance to learn what they do, it'll really benefit you. And also, as Lizzie already pointed out, we're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing us. So make sure that you can really see yourself at this company with the people that you are interviewing with, if you'll enjoy it there. Because I think you're gonna, even, well, we're online now, so we're not rubbing shoulders, but you're still gonna essentially be communicating with everyone day to day. So just make sure that they're nice people and people that you have the same type of professional and maybe even personal interests and goals with.
Thank you, Cassie. Marsha, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat similar. I would say that being in a nonprofit, I think sometimes I run into candidates who are immediately going for, you know, larger corporate organizations, but I would say do the research, even though an internship may not lead you to a full-time position, but the whole point of being an intern is to learn, right? And that is something that I think that we've put a lot of work into to make sure that we not only get our work done, but that we're giving the intern or / fellow, you know, an experience that they can walk away from saying that they've learned, you know, A, B, C. So I would say, learn about NRDC and other related organizations in the green space.
Thank you, Marsha. Bashak or Wesley?
I would say very early on into your career, it's important that you kind of establish a brand for yourself, that being things that you're good at, key values that you hold close and that you are uncompromising about, just kind of expectations for how you want to live your life and the type of people that you want to have around you, because then that makes it easier for you to make very complex decisions in life and in the workplace. Because if you are very confident and assured in who you are and what you stand for, then you are able to, like, you know, the saying, stand for something or fall for anything, you know. If you know what it is that you want out of your career, it's a lot easier for you to go after it and get it, as opposed to kind of just being shifted around based on what the business need is. Because at the end of the day, like a corporation, no matter the size, like, they are here to do business, and like the bottom line is like one of the most important things. But you want to make sure that your growth and your happiness are also being considered. So you want to make sure that you don't compromise on those things, and that you have a good understanding of how to keep those things in check. And just kind of, that should be how you operate and how you protect your brand.
Thank you, Wesley. And Sharon?
Yeah, I want to second that. I think our brand is huge, but also that you have a unique selling point, which is very different from other candidates. So really focus on what that is and make it clear. And then also, if you get a chance to even volunteer somewhere, I think it's important, because you never know who you're going to meet, and that could lead to a job somewhere else. Like, any opportunity, take it. You never know what it's going to lead to. And I stress about going to hackathons because it's a really good place to meet people and you learn so much. And throughout the course of the days, you get to experience so much stuff that you would never imagine.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone. You've shared so much insight into your internships, into your industries. I think all of our students have learned a lot of valuable information today. And that brings our webinar to a close. If you have any more follow-up questions, again, we are located at STU 110. You can also make appointments with us virtually or in person. You can come to drop-ins Monday through Friday, 1 to 4 p.m. And we also have Career Fest right now, where we have a lot of workshops, events, Trojan Talks, where you can network with the recruiters and the employers as our panelists said today and recommended to do. But with that, thank you everyone for your time. This has been a great workshop. Sorry, a great panel.